This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com. This episode of Sketchup, a 3D Toolbox, is brought to you by 3D Connection, makers of the Space Navigator. To learn more about them, visit their website at www.3dconnection.com. Hey there everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sketchup, a 3D Toolbox. I'm your host Cameron Harris, and this is episode number 29. Now today we're going to start working on the kitchen in our small house project, and we're going to start by building some simple kitchen cabinets. Let's get started. Okay, so here we are in our small house project. It's almost exactly as we left it in the last episode, except that I took the molding that we did in our green and red rooms over here, and I expanded it so that now basically every room in the house has this molding. Now, what we're going to do today, as I said, is we're going to do kitchen cabinets. And in my case, I want to put the kitchen right here in this corner. So I want cabinets along this wall and along this wall. Now, these cabinets are going to be right up against the wall. And as such, I've purposefully not put molding here. That way, the molding won't interfere with my cabinets. Now, if you've already put molding there, just go ahead and delete it for now. And then we can add it back in after the fact once we know where all our cabinets are going to be. Now, one thing that's very important to point out is that when you're building things like cabinets or even just any kind of furniture, it's a good idea to go online and research the typical dimensions, or if you have cabinets in your kitchen, measure how high they are, how deep they are. In my case, I just did a quick Google search and I've just come up with a couple of very simple dimensions. 3 feet high, 2 feet deep, and each cabinet unit is 2 feet wide. So what I'm going to do is, because I want my cabinets to start in the corner here, I'm actually going to go ahead and start modeling them in this corner. So what I'm going to do is first make sure that my walls and floors are grouped. Good, they are. Click out here to deselect. And now I'm going to come in with the rectangle tool, and starting right here in this corner, I'm going to come out here, and I want to draw a square in this case. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 2 feet by 2 feet. There we go. So now I've got small 2 foot. Notice this is going to be the back corner, so you won't actually see this part, but we're going to use this to expand out upon our cabinets. So this right here, the cabinets along this wall, 2 feet deep this way. The cabinets along this wall, 2 feet deep this way. And now I'm just going to pull it up to the standard height of 3 feet. There we go, perfect. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stretch them out on either side to make them as wide as I want them. But I do want to point something out. You'll notice that when I stretch it out to this side, after I've done that, if I stretch out this side, it's the whole thing. I don't want it one big block, I want it to be an L-shaped. So what I'm going to do instead is, instead of just grabbing this and pulling it out, I'm actually going to hit the Option key with the push-pull tool, which, if you'll recall, pulls out a copy of this. So now I still have this line here to work with. Now, because each cabinet unit is typically 2 feet wide, I want to make sure that I extrude these in 2 foot increments. Right? So every 2 foot increment will be 1 unit of cabinet. Now I don't need to create separate things, keep expanding out so that I have all these separate lines like this. I don't need to do that. All I need to do is just do it once and then just figure out, just kind of get a ballpark right here. That right around there looks pretty good. And you'll notice in my distance box down there, it says that's pretty close to 8 feet. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 8 feet. There we go. So that is going to be one side of all my cabinets. And now I'm going to extrude this side out. And let's see, if I snap to this wall, look at that. That's interesting. 8 feet. So I'll just have it go right up against this wall. Click 8 feet, done. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, we've got this extra line right here just because I extruded that out. Made my life easier at the time, but now I don't need that anymore. Delete that. Now I've got some nice, smooth cabinets, nice surface to work on. Now, what's the first thing that you notice that's wrong with this picture? well, the cabinets are like solid. Most kitchen cabinets have a little notch cut out down here. And that's what I'm going to do next. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a quick little notch. Actually, I'll use the line tool for this. Let's say we want the notch to be like, let's do 2 inches in. We have a little 2-inch line, and now I can extrude this up maybe 3 inches and out like that. Perfect. So now I've got my little notch selected here, and because this notch is actually going to need to go around a corner like this, I'm actually going to use the Follow Me tool, just like we did in the last episode where we were working on all this molding and having it go around all these corners. The Follow Me tool does that perfectly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to select, I remember I'm in raw line and face mode, so I don't need to worry about drawing the extra lines. I already have my lines here. I just need to select these 2 outer lines because this is where I want my notch to be. And then I'm going to use the Follow Me tool. The lines are deselected, but don't worry, it's just waiting for us to click on a face. I click on this face, and it carves the notch all underneath here, and look at what it did to this corner here. It's just perfect. God. The Follow Me tool, although you only use it a few times during the course of your entire model, when you do use it, you are so thankful you have it. It's fantastic. Okay, so we've got a nice base layer for our cabinets. Let's do some countertops. Now the countertops I actually want to be separate, so I'm going to go ahead and triple click on these cabinets down here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and group them. And now I'm going to go and click out here to deselect those. Now I want to build my countertops, which are going to be actually, a top, but they're also going to have a little bit of a back face right here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually draw those. Let's say I want my back portion to be 4 inches high. And then it'll come out 1/2 inch. And it'll go down 3 inches. Remember, I made this one go up 4 inches. I'm going to make this one go down 3 inches, so I have a 1-inch height for my regular countertop. Lock it to the green axis, and I'm going to snap it to this external face here. Go down. Boom, there we go. Go ahead and reverse the faces on that, so it's facing out. Beautiful. So I've got that done. Next step, I'm going to, because these things are grouped now, we can select this thing separately, but because this is grouped, we're going to have to redraw some lines for a path for the Follow Me tool. It's funny, I know I said you don't use the Follow Me tool very much, but I guess you actually do when you're building molding and cabinets and things like that. Draw those lines there. Good. Select just those lines. See how we can select them separately now. That's good. Follow me. Click and poof. Beautiful. But one thing I'm noticing, I would like these cabinets to kind of have a little bit more of a lip. Can totally do that after the fact. Just grab this, pull it out maybe, let's make it 1/2 inch. And then I'll just do the same thing over here. So you can edit stuff after you've follow me'd it, if you will. Okay, now here's the next problem. This is covering up these windows here, this back plate here. We don't want it to do that. So this is the same thing. The reason that we didn't draw our lines around the entire room back here is because we didn't want the molding, when we used the Follow Me tool on it, we didn't want it covering up our doorways. But it's happened here. So I'm going to show you how you can fix this if it does happen. What I'm going to do is, it's right up against the wall, which makes it really easy. And I just want to edit this back plate here. The countertop here is going to stick up 1 inch. Nothing we can really do about that. But the back plate here we can do something about. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to use the line tool. I'm going to snap the line tool to where the wall, this wall right here, where it goes into the hole for the window, where the wall and the backsplash meet. I'm going to draw a line right there. Just one single line. Do the same thing here. Yeah, that wasn't quite straight. Make sure it's locked to the red axis. There we go. And now I'm going to use the push-pull tool. I can now select just this face separately and push it down. So now the backsplash stops right there. Now we've got this little extra line right here. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Keep our countertops nice and smooth. Perfect. And I'll do the same thing over here. Switch to the line tool. Draw some guidelines here. Push it down. Oops, there we go. And delete that last line there. Perfect. So that's looking great. I've got some great looking countertops now. I'm going to go ahead and triple click on those. And I'm going to group those as well. And I'll click out here. So that looks great. Now the last thing that we're missing here are some doors and drawers for our cabinets here. Now, cabinet doors, you could just draw like a rectangle, simple rectangle, extrude out and make it very simple. But I'm going to show you how you can do something a little bit more fancy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to do some guideline drawing here. I'm going to switch to the tape measure tool. And remember I said that we want to extrude these cabinets out in a number, basically in 2-foot increments, because each unit of cabinet is going to be 2 feet. And each unit of cabinet has 2 doors. So that's what we're going to do first, is I'm going to draw a guideline so I can see 2 feet this way. Okay, so this right here, that guideline over to here, this is the section of cabinet that we're going to be working on. This is the part of the cabinet that's going to have, actually not 2 drawers, it's 2 doors. It's going to have 1 door, I'm sorry. 1 door. Sometimes you'd have 2 doors if they were maybe overhead cabinets, but in this case, I'm just going to stick with 1 door. So we've got this one here. Now, if I just went ahead and drew a door that filled this entire thing, the doors would be right up against each other. Wouldn't look very good. I want a little bit of a gap between all the doors. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do some more guidelines that are just a 1/2 inch in. So it's kind of like a little 1/2 inch border around the whole thing. And that's how big my door is going to be. Right? So that's the amount of space that I want to keep clear. And then the next thing, I want to mark out where my drawer is going to be. The drawer is going to start at these guidelines here, right? Just like the door, we want space at the top. But I'm going to have the drawer come down maybe, let's have it be 4 inches. Okay, so this right here, in fact, I'll go ahead and draw, remember, our cabinets are grouped, so I can draw the doors on top of them without any worry. Draw a rectangle right there. Okay, so that's going to be our drawer. Now, it's flickering purple and white because it's a face on top of another face, right? They do that, so don't worry about that. It's not a glitch. It's just trying to figure out what to show you, because it's technically speaking, it's 2 faces occupying the same space. SketchUp physics is a little bit weird. But now, I want another 1/2 inch gap down here between the drawer and my door. This is where my door is going to be. So I've done all my guidelines. I'm going to start at this corner, move down to this corner. There we go. So this is going to be my drawer. This is going to be my door. Now, I could go through, I don't really need these guides anymore, so they're kind of getting in the way. I could go through and delete them manually, but remember we have a nice little handy shortcut up in the Edit menu. Edit, and then Delete Guides. If we click that, all of our guidelines are deleted instantly. So that is fantastic. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude these guys out 1/2 inch each. Okay, so now we've got a 1/2 inch thick slab for a door, 1/2 inch thick slab for a drawer. So that's very simple. We could leave it at that. But I'm going to show you how you can get a little bit more fancy with it. But before we get into that, I want to thank the people who make this show possible, 3D Connection. These guys make the Space Navigator, which is a fantastic way to navigate in SketchUp. And in fact, the same company, 3D Connection, they make not just the Space Navigator, but they originally made a lot of professional, they call them 3D mice. Things that enabled people like 3D modelers and those kinds of people who work in 3D all the time. It allowed them to navigate models very easily and very intuitively. Now, those big things that look more like they would look at home in flight simulators. Those things are expensive and still used by the pros, but this thing is the consumer version. This is for people like us who just have a blast working in SketchUp and want a better way to navigate than keyboard shortcuts and tool switching and mouse movements and all that stuff. This is just so much simpler and intuitive. This is basically what the pros use. It's just fantastic. Check out their website, www.3dconnection.com, to find out more information on the Space Navigator. I think you guys are really going to like it if you end up getting one. And I want to thank them so much for sponsoring this episode of Sketchup, a 3D toolbox. So we've got a nice basic slab for our cabinet doors here, and now I'm going to show you how you can get a little bit more fancy with it. For this, I'm actually going to use the Offset tool, which you can either get to the Offset tool up in the toolbar. This is it right here, that little icon. It says Offset. It's also over in your tool palette right here. But my personal favorite way of getting to it is the keyboard shortcut F for Offset. Now, if you watch the episode where we actually built the walls for all of our rooms in here, you'll know that the Offset tool, you basically click on a face, and it allows you to offset, create a smaller or larger version of whatever face you've selected, but it does it within that face. So if I let go here, it basically kind of splits this face in two. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make, let's do 3 inches. So that's a 3-inch difference right here. So this is a 3-inch border all around here. Very nice. And now I'm going to do the same thing, another 3-inch border right here. So I've got this outer one here, and I've got these 2 inner ones. What I'm going to do with these 2 inner ones is I'm actually going to use the push-pull tool and push them back. Not a 1/2 inch because that would make them disappear. I'm going to go with just a 1/4 inch. So I'll do 0.25. So now these are slightly recessed. Now that alone kind of looks weird. What I'm going to do is I'm now going to take this inner face and pull it back out another 1/4 inch. But you know, if I just use the push-pull tool and take it out a 1/4 inch, it just goes like that. That's not very interesting. I mean, that's a look. You know, you could go with that. But I'm actually going to use the Move tool. Now, here's where it gets kind of interesting. Remember that this face and this face are not individually grouped, so they're technically the same face. So when I try and use the Move tool to pull it off, it's not going to just come off, it's going to stick. So parts of the rest of the face are going to come with it. Under normal circumstances, that's not what you want. In this case, though, this is what we want. I'm going to double click on this face to get the lines as well as the face itself, because that's what I want to move. And now I'm going to hit the M key for the Move tool. Now when I click on this face, by default it just lets me move it around within the face, right? So I could move it, you know, this way or that way or whatever I want, but I don't want to change its location in terms of that. I actually want to pull it out, and it's not really letting me do that. What you need to do is you need to lock your axis. So remember, the arrow keys will lock you in an axis. Up or down arrow keys will lock you in the blue axis or the up and down axis. The right arrow key will lock you in the red axis. And the left arrow key will lock you in the green axis. So I'm going to hit that. And now, look at this. As I pull this thing out, it's still connected. So I've still got these big lines right here that are still connecting it back. Now in this case, this looks really weird. But if I just pull it out a 1/4 inch, check that out. So now what I've got is this face and this face are still, you know, pretty much exactly where they are. They're in the same location depth-wise that they were before, but now I've got this interior inset thing with these 4 faces right here. And this is a really cool look. If you look around, a lot of cabinets have this look, and I just think it looks so cool. It's a very simple effect. Not a lot, doesn't take a lot of time, just a little extra time, but I mean, just look at that. I mean, it looks so much better than just a normal slab. And I'm actually going to do a similar thing with the drawer up here. I'm going to go ahead and triple click on the door and group it. And I'm going to do a similar effect on the drawer. Now the drawer is smaller, so I'm not going to do quite the same thing, but I'm going to use the offset tool and offset it 1/2 inch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push both faces back a 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to double click on this face, this interior face here. Use the Move tool on it. hit the left arrow key to lock it to the green axis. You may be in the red axis, in which case hit the right arrow key. Experiment around. It's hard to know what it's going to be. Lock it there. And go ahead and select out. But, I mean, look how cool that looks. That's really snazzy. And you can have a lot of fun with this effect. You can go, more layers within layers and do all kinds of cool stuff. You do have to think a little bit about, okay, what's the look I want and how can I achieve it? How much do I need to offset each one? Toy around with how much you offset each one of these things if you want. But there's some really cool stuff that you can do here. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go ahead and group this drawer here. And I'm going to go ahead and shift click on the door. So I've got my drawer and door selected all at once. Now I could go ahead and just group these into one unit. But remember, what do we want to do if we're going to be making multiple copies of these and we want these to be exactly the same? I'm going to right click and I'm going to make component. Now if you don't know what a component is, watch our episode on components. And it's going to ask me for a name here. So I'm just going to call this cabinet face. And you can see that it looks like it's just grouped it. But it's more than a group. And I'll show you why in a sec. For now, let's just go ahead and copy it and make some duplicates. So remember, we have a 1/2 inch border on this whole thing. So if we're going to have two of these side by side, there's actually going to be an inch of a gap between them. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a 1-inch gap just as a nice little guideline. And now I'm going to grab, using the move tool, I'm going to grab this guy right here. Now just grabbing him by this corner, I'm just moving that guy around. I want to hit the Option key to grab a copy of him. Snap him right there. Perfect. Now, for this next one, I actually have just learned that I don't need a guideline. I was keeping an eye on how far the move tool moved it, and when I got on that guideline, it said 2 feet. So because each of these cabinets are in 2-foot increments, I can just go ahead and grab it from anywhere and just drag a copy over, say 2 feet, and there we go. And then I'll just do this one more time. There we go. Click off here. Perfect. And now I want to do the same thing over on this side of the cabinets. Now I could grab another drawer thing and then move it over here, but I'm going to show you a cool little trick. If I know I'm going to basically need this whole thing, just rotate it over here, I can select all of them by shift clicking all of them, make them a group temporarily, use the copy tool, the move tool using the copy function, just drag out a copy of them. And then I'm going to use the rotate tool. If you haven't watched our episode on the rotate tool, watch it again. Even if you have watched it, watch it again because it's a little bit of a weird tool. But suffice it to say, I'm going to use it to basically just rotate these over here, 90 degrees. Very nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw over here a guideline. I know they're going to be a 1/2 inch in from that side there. So I'm going to go ahead and first of all, I'm going to use the move tool and grab them from the back side right there. And I'm going to snap them, use the right arrow key to lock it to the red axis, and I'm going to snap them so that they're now right up against that cabinet right there. So that takes care of that dimension. If you're snapping things into a very specific location, it's best to kind of like figure out, okay, this is where it needs to be in the red axis. And then after that, we'll grab it by down here, then lock it to the other axis, in this case the green axis, and then move it into place. By doing it in 2 steps, it just gets if you try to do it all at once, it gets really complicated. Doing it all just in one fluid step, much, much easier. Look at that. That's just awesome. And it really didn't take too long. Once you know these kind of more advanced tools and techniques, things start to come together a little bit quicker. Now, before we finish this up, I just want to texture the cabinet top right here. So I'm actually going to double click it to go in there. Hit B for the bucket tool. And let's see what textures we have here. Let's look at, oh, how about some stone maybe? Something that looks kind of like a granite countertop. No, that's ugly. Let's see here. No, those are like pavers. A little bit dull. Let's see what we've got under tile. That's kind of interesting. Just keep toying around with things till you find something you like. Ooh, I like that. Let's see what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and option click on one of the white faces to color in everything. Double click out here. That's pretty nice looking. It goes nicely with the floor. Nice warm look. Go ahead and close this window. I like it. So now the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and ungroup. I'm going to select these groups here and I'm going to explode them. That way the cabinets are now individual cabinet faces again. It keeps it a little bit easier to kind of drill down if I were to need to do something to them later on. And speaking of which, remember how we made them a component? Let's say we want to change something about them in the future. All I have to do is double click in one and maybe use the move tool and extend out this one here. Any change I make to one, it happens to all of them. So if I, and that goes not just for like weird things like this, but if I wanted to like maybe, I don't really want a drawer, I'll delete the drawer. It deletes all the drawers. Or, oh, I want to texture these differently. Textures them all differently. Really, really handy. A real big time saver. I'm going to undo that so that they look normal again. And there we go. So as you can see, once you start to master all these more advanced tools in SketchUp, things like kitchen cabinets start to get really, really easy. Now, until next time, be sure to visit our website, www.harwoodpodcast.com. There I'll have the show notes for this episode, where you can download the lesson file as it was at the beginning of this project, if you want to follow along exactly as I was. And if you have any questions or comments for me about the show, you can send me an email at cameron@harwoodpodcast.com. Till next time, I'll just say goodbye and good modeling.